So after my very non-controversial video about the Framework desktop, I wanted to make this video where I go a little more into detail about how I view Framework and what I think about the company in general. And trust me, I truly believe that Framework is a very special company, but I also believe that this specialness kinda hurts them. For this video, I created this chart of consumer electronic companies that I will use throughout this video to explain my hypothesis about Framework. It has market competitiveness on the x-axis and the number of potential customers on the y-axis. And we have 4 categories: niche, dream, mainstream, and dying technology companies. It is okay to be in every single of these rectangles and you can still have a very healthy business doing so, except the dying technology. Mainstream and niche come with their own benefits and drawbacks. Mainstream companies sell tons of devices every single year, but also have a lot of competition, meaning they don't earn that much money on a single device sold. While niche companies do not sell that many companies, they can justify a higher price by doing their niche well, and they also have lower amount of competition. Thanks to this low competition, they can work on much lower budgets and they form a sort of a cult of loyal fans that really love their products. To make this a little more specific, Framework is a great example of a niche company. The right customer can justify paying more, waiting longer, and getting worse support just to get a device that really suits them. On the other hand, the typical mainstream companies are Lenovo, HP, and Dell. They literally sell millions and millions of devices each year, not only to individuals, but mainly institutions that buy their devices in the thousands. They have to sell at very competitive prices because their users are mostly people who want the best bang for their buck. So if they're not getting it, they will just go to a different company. And now we come to the dream companies, and can you guess which one would that be? And yes, it's Apple. Being able to sell an 8GB RAM upgrade for $200 is literally a thing that only Apple can do. Literally only Apple. They have loyal fans and manage to get a lot of them throughout the time. And because of these fans, they do not have to fight almost any competition, because many people, once they go to Apple, they will never go back and will just buy Apple devices no matter what. So Apple for the past 10 years has been a really good business, a really good cash cow, if you like it or not. Now, I think it's important to understand how Framework got its niche status. They started, and in the grand scheme of things still are, a very small company. And that's okay. If you want to make money while being a small company, the niche rectangle is the best one for you. Framework created their company with the vision of being the first company that will deliver the first upgradable and fully repairable laptop on the market. And they invested a lot of money and time into building the Framework 13 and Framework 16. Repairable hinge, display, speaker, trackpad, keyboard, webcam, and much more. These two are very special products for a niche group of people that really care about this. The reason that competition is low is that the mainstream companies do not care about selling a few devices more if it means building a completely repairable and upgradable laptop from scratch. They just have bigger fish to fry. And that is important for the niche companies because that is their window to join the market. So yeah, it is fair to say that Framework built a really good foundation with the Framework 13 and the Framework 16. In my opinion, the best way forward for Framework would be to focus on these two devices and iterate and make them better and better, because they still have some issues, especially the Framework 16. This means frequent GPU and CPU upgrades and new features, like for example a new hinge system for the Framework 13 that would turn it into a 2-in-1, which would go further into this niche that you really own your laptop, and those people that really care about this and for example like to draw on their laptop would have the possibility to buy a touchscreen, buy a new hinge system, and make their laptop really their own. But after the Framework 2nd Gen event, they decided to go in a different direction. Framework instead decided to basically double their portfolio from 2 to 4 products by introducing the new, cheaper Framework Laptop 12 and the Framework Desktop. Now, just this introduces a potential problem. The amount of money you need to develop, upgrade, and just maintain 4 products instead of 2 is much higher. But okay, let's just say that Framework will somehow manage this well. The next problem this introduces, especially with the Framework Desktop, is that it may shift the company from a niche company to a wannabe mainstream company, which means it would have to be competitive against the big boys. But I will talk about this in detail later in the video when I will be talking about the Framework Desktop. But just to keep it high level for now, going further to mainstream doesn't necessarily mean you will sell more devices. It just means that your company will be perceived as a mainstream company. So if your new devices don't follow your existing niche, they will not be perceived as such, and you will sort of lose the benefits that you get with being a niche company. But okay, let's look at them individually. The Framework Laptop 12 is, in my opinion, a good Framework product with some minor issues that can be solved in the future. It makes Framework more available to the people who otherwise would not be able to afford a Framework product, which is a really good thing. The problem I see is that it comes with a few features that make the flagships a little less interesting for some potential buyers. What I mean by this is that it's a 2-in-1. It comes with a really cool 360-degree hinge and with a touchscreen, something that the Framework 13 doesn't have. I think this can be and should be solved in the future by creating a new hinge system or something like that, and introducing also a new touchscreen for the Framework 13 and potentially even the 16, and basically bringing these devices closer to one another to not eat their own market share up. So yeah, that was the Framework Laptop 12, but now let's talk about the product which is talked about more, in my opinion, and is seen as this new future from Framework, and that is the Framework Desktop. And yeah, after the presentation I made a video about it being disappointing in my opinion, and it was not received the best. But it still has a positive like-dislike ratio, so it must have resonated with some people. But in this video, I would like to explain, using our chart, why Framework needs to be cautious when introducing this product. And even though I wish them the best, I only see 2 scenarios for this product. But I may be mistaken, so if I miss something, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear about it. The first scenario I called niche but different. The Framework Desktop is not a typical Framework product. While a really large amount of parts needed to be designed by Framework for the Framework 13 to be very repairable and upgradable, this just wasn't the case for the Framework Desktop. So it does not have this Framework niche built into it. So it might become a new niche product for some gamers or hobby AI engineers. And this, in my opinion, would be the better of the 2 scenarios for Framework. But if the AMD chip becomes a hit for AI engineers and will move to the mainstream, we come to the second scenario. And I call this one mainstream is hard. If the chip becomes a hit, the Framework Desktop doesn't have this value added that Framework had for all of its other products. What I mean by this is there is no reason for the big boys like Lenovo, Dell or HP to create their own little desktops. And this also means that they will be able to use their budgets, PR, to sell the devices at a lower price with better support. So if the Framework Desktop will go against the big boys, against same small towers that were made by the big companies, I don't think it will be able to compete, just because they will just, by the amount of money they have, be able to sell it at a lower price because they can manufacture more of them, they can sell them to more users. And I don't think that newcomers to Framework will choose Framework just because they can customize the front panel when they can buy the same product from Lenovo for cheaper. So going away from the niche category goes with its huge drawbacks, and you will no longer be perceived as a niche company. You will have to compete, and it's really hard to compete against the huge companies. So that's what I wanted to say. I really hope that Framework will be cautious and that they really have a good plan for both of these scenarios, and I hope that they will be able to somehow make profit, make a lot of money, and ship even better products in the future. But if I overlooked something, please let me know in the comments. I would love to read about it. But other than that, that will be it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, please like the video and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.